Hey guys, what is up? I'm gonna be doing this video as more of like a space rant. That's why I have it as like audio only because I didn't want to set up a camera, and drawing on my iPad is a better way for me to visualize things and explain to y'all about this. And for a lot of you who don't know, or a lot of you who don't know me, I love space. I love things about space, black holes, paradoxes, time, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and I'm not majoring in these things as much as I want to, but this is one of my favorite hobbies, I guess you could say, which isn't really a hobby. I spend most of my time either doing schoolwork or doom scrolling, and all this just comes from my previous knowledge and other thing and stuff I've seen from my previously mentioned doom scrolling. So yeah, today kind of want to talk. I was gonna do another topic about the Big Bang, but I didn't know much about that. So I'm going to be talking about one of the biggest theories of possible life in the universe, right? So to start this off, I want to talk about the observable universe, right? So I'm going to draw a circle. This isn't exactly going to be or a terrible oval, right? Or yeah, we'll call that an oval, sure. So say this giant circle or round shape is the observable universe, right? This is all the universe that we could see. There are theories that there's more, but that because light that takes time to bounce back to Earth, like we can't see it yet. But that's another rant, right? This is the universe that we can see, and as of right now, we haven't found legitimate signs of life, of like not just humans, of human-like people, like aliens, and that's kind of where I at least think that's not how we should view it. And I'm saying I as if I have some PhD or some level of certification to talk about this. I don't. These are all just me, like, talking about things. But one of the things I do like to think about is the fact, like, we're looking at this from our point of view, right? In physics, I'll use an example that I like to see when it comes to physics problems, right? This is going somewhere, so don't, like, leave the video. So say this is a car, right? Terribly drawn car for a car guy, right? And in the car, there is a drone. I'll draw this rectangle as a drone, right? So the car is moving at 55 miles per hour, because I live in America and we use freedom units. Inside the drone is standstill, it is just moving. What speed is the drone moving at, right? And there's two answers for it. If you're talking relative to the road, the drone is moving also at 55 mph. If you're talking compared to the car, it's at 0 mph, right? And what I'm going with this is when it comes to the drone, it's different when it comes to different sources of relativity, right? Which is why when you're looking at it when and in the car specifically, it's going at 0. But if you're looking at it at the road, it's going 55 miles an hour. Same thing with this. We are looking at life as if it's relative to our what we consider to be biology. We consider people to, be like breathing, you know, like have eyes or some form of eyes, to, have a voice, to grow slash die, and yada 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 yada. I'm not a biologist, but these are generally the things I would consider to be life. But because of how vast the universe is, like, we're barely like that size, even if, right, say that small point, that's us, right? That's us, right? The universe is so big, and at different scales, physics breaks down. And a lot, like things like, Planck length, or black holes, or other planets, physics tends to change when it comes to Earth's relative things. I think that's also the same thing for biology. That if you go into different parts of space, um, it's different. And even with distance, right? Say this is Earth, right? You leave Earth. Terrible drawing of Earth, but you leave Earth, right? Say Earth's relative, you're going left. But in space you could be going up, you could be going down, you could be going right, you could be going forward, and there's no real like legitimate direction because you're only thinking about it relative to what your position is. So why I think that life isn't what we would think be life is because the same reason that physics changes depending on what we think is relative. So we always view aliens as like this sort of like humanoid type creature with like eyes and like some form of like mouth and like a nose or some like blob, like Ditto from Pokemon, right? And like has, but in general speaking, like could have like five, 5 arms, like 8 legs. Like we generally view aliens as this semi or fully humanoid type creature that has voices, that can breathe, and has some form of like being like, oh, I can distinguish this person from a human. You look at movies, you look at TV shows, art, and all these different types of forms of what we consider to be aliens. um this is kind of what we view them as some sort of living being that we consider to be relative to what we would consider biology, what we would considered to be living, right? And even then, a lot of things what we consider to be living aren't living, or some things that we consider to be not living. And even in humans, different species exist, right? And by different species, I'm talking about animals like lions, bears, tigers, pigs, and yada yada yada, right? And that also breaks things down because what if something that like we consider to be non-living, right, like a rock, could be something that is living in another planet or another time or another point in the universe. Like say here, living could mean completely different. A living being could just be nothing. It could be just things that we have never seen before, right? And it's not, well, I would say it's an idiotic theory. It's still a theory. I don't want to sound like game theory too much, but anyways, like physics changes depending on where we are in the universe, right? Like say in a black hole, like this terribly drawn event horizon, right? Time here actually slows down. So time slows down. This is where time slows down. To the people relative on Earth, this, if possible, to see someone enter a black hole and survive, you to Earth, you're going at normal time, but you're just slowly reaching that event horizon. To you you're going at normal speed. You're just you're that's you, but relative to Earth you're going a lot slower. So if physics breaks down depending on where we are in the universe and where we are, um you know in a planet in space, and all that, um if that happens, what if something is different when it comes to biology, when something's different when it comes to chemistry? We all view aliens like this, and I know I'm repeating a lot and saying things over and over again, but that's kind of like how I rant. So like we always view aliens as a humanoid or human-like being that we can like distinguish. But what if aliens are something that we can't see, something that we can't. My Apple Pencil's about to die, even though I charged it earlier. Um, Something that we don't consider to be life because it's not relative to what humans consider life. So, like, it's not a very like set in stone theory. I do think that there is life because the chances of humans existing in the universe of even light years, that's a separate thing, but humans existing overall is basically zero, right? And from the fact that we haven't found life should be impossible, because statistically there should be another sign of life. There should be something that, you know, be a sign of life. It could be something that we don't consider life. It could be something that we do consider life, but something that we don't really think of it as life, you know? And a lot of planets do resemble Earth. Like, I think it was like a Kepler. It's like, let me look it up. My laptop's in front of me. So Earth like planets found, right? So they're like the planet. I just googled this, right? In 2017, there was an exoplanet called Super Earth, or LHS 7 or 1140b, right? LHS 1140b, right? And this is basically a 5.6 times bigger than Earth. Sorry about that. I got distracted. Earth. Okay. Um so this exists because of what we call in the Goldilocks zone, right? Basically, this exists in that perfect range where it's not too hot or not, and not too cold, right? Um, and has like a helium-rich like atmosphere. So if there's planets that could exist like Earth, that means there is also a chance of life. It means that there is more things. There's not just humans. I'm not writing this perfectly, but humans. There's also other types of species. Okay, and in this is like, animals, fish, like bacteria, and yada yada yada. Right. That means aliens could technically exist, just not in the laws that we would consider to be living. So, that's kind of my rant. If you guys got anything from it, then yay. If not, then I do apologize for my bad ranting and explaining, even though I tried my best. So, yeah, if you guys want more of these videos, subscribe if you've made it to this, you know, if you made it to this point in the video. So, yeah, thanks so much. Have a good day.